covering climate, weather, and the industrial enterprise from Penn State Meteorology. Here is Up in the Air.
Welcome to another episode of Up in the Air this week. I'm Logan Westrope.
And I'm Mike Susko.
So Mike, February and January have been very mild. We are closing out March, and we've seen a lot of our snow action from the nor'easters come up throughout the past few weeks in March. Are you ready for a change as we head in towards April?
I am really ready for a change into spring, especially in April. So hopefully Vivan Rennie will have more for us on Climate Wall. But first, we have stories on NASA, heat waves, and Arctic wind patterns.
All that and more, but first, here's Update in the Air. A study found by Matt Warren from sciencemag.org says the bigger the earthquake, the longer it takes to issue an alert. This can cause quite the concern for people who would try to prepare and move to safety, only having limited time to act. The fact that all earthquakes start with fast-moving waves that typically have limited damage are called P waves. The waves that cause more destruction are called S waves since they are slower moving. The study states that early warning systems measure ground movement during the fast P waves to predict how much shaking the S waves will cause, then sending out an alert. Researchers are coming up with a new system that could allow for people to set their own standards for alerts, not on the actual magnitude, but on how devastating the earthquake would be at their particular location. This would allow for signals for low level of shaking to be sent out rather swiftly, prompting users to take action.
Wildfire seasons are increasing in length and severity in the western U.S. Temperatures in the region have soared thanks to the heat-trapping pollutants and weather patterns. The region's vegetation dries up and waits to add itself as fuel to the fire. The fire smoke can smother towns and travel for hundreds of miles in a phenomenon known as smoke waves. These waves can linger for days and contain chemicals from burning rubber and homes. This increases ozone pollution within the area, and it's filled with tiny particles called PM subscript 2.5. These particles get stuck inside the lungs and can trigger coughing, worsening diseases such as asthma, and possibly lead to cancer. The homeless population is especially at risk. Quote, "When I woke up yesterday, I could not breathe. This stuff is just wiping me out," said David Ewing from Santa Barbara. As climate change progresses, models predict drier conditions for the western U.S., continuing to increase for longer, more severe wildfire seasons.
Just when you thought that we've escaped winter and moved on to spring, the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast got slammed with yet another late-season snowstorm last week. Original thoughts from researchers were that this extreme weather was linked to climate change's impacts on the Arctic. Now, a study published in the Nature Communications says, quote, "There is a strong correlation between the severe winter weather in the mid-latitudes and the warming Arctic trend." Researchers Jennifer Francis and Judah Cohen used two gauges of temperature anomalies, one measuring the troughs and ridges in the pressure in the upper atmosphere. The other gauges monitors temperatures at the polar ice cap. The researchers support what has been called, quote, "the warm Arctic cold continents hypothesis." The warming climates of the poles, along with the colder land masses, can fluctuate the balance of heat across different climatic zones, which can cause the jet stream to differ with large frequencies. While yet this is not set in stone, we may have a closer clue than before of what has been causing these stranger winter weather patterns.
Heat waves are a natural occurrence throughout the world, especially in the summer months. However, scientists at the Cooperative Institute for Marine and Atmospheric Studies, CMAS, at the University of Miami, and colleagues discovered that human-made climate change will be a main factor in the frequency of heat waves, especially in the Great Lakes region, Northern Plains, and Southern Plains by 2030, 2050, and 2070, respectively. Jose Lopez, a CMAS meteorologist, says without the human influence, half of the extreme heat waves projected to occur during this century wouldn't happen. Lopez and his colleagues used climate models along with historical climate data from 1900 to 2010 to predict future heat waves during the summer months. In their study, an extreme heat wave event was 3 or more days in a row of record-high temperatures. For communities and public health officials to prepare for extreme heat events, it is vital to understand the driving forces behind them.
When you think of a clean room, do you imagine everything in order and sanitized from germs and bacteria? Well, NASA's clean room, supposed to be one of the cleanest and basically free from bacteria, has been discovered not to be. These rooms are used to store samples from space and to leave any leftover biological contaminants behind. But according to a new study suggests that a clean room in NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston might not be as clean as people think. It's inherently infected with, quote, an abundance of terrestrial fungus. Geomicrobiologist Aaron Regberg doesn't find the results too shocking. There are an international class standards from 1 to 9, 1 being the cleanest. This room is rated at a class 6, but still he says that researchers need to be on their toes when curating future samples. Although other microbes were found at other facilities, between 83 and 97% of the microbes at the Meteorology lab were fungus. The researchers are still unclear as to why there has been an increase in their fungi.
Records have indicated the Arctic has been on a warming trend for decades. Data collected from buoys dropped onto Arctic sea ice show an anomalous shift in Arctic wind patterns and sea ice movement during the winter of 2017. Typically, the western Arctic is stable in the winter months and is home to winds that travel in a clockwise pattern and a high-pressure system known as the Beaufort High. Physics professor at the University of Toronto, Mishawega, said last year, "We looked at the buoy tracks in the western Arctic and saw that the sea ice was moving in a counterclockwise pattern instead." Moore and his colleagues found storms move from the Barents Sea along the Siberian coast into the western Arctic. This brought low-pressure systems that caused the collapse of the Beaufort High. They believe the unusual warm fall in 2016 allowed for the low-pressure systems to make inroads into the western Arctic, resulting in thinner, less extensive sea ice. This allows for more energy to be released from the ocean and add fuel to the storms, intensifying them. Welcome back to the show.
Now we got a feature this week by Jake Sorber on how climate change affects fish.
One of the species most affected by global climate change are commercial fishing species such as trout. As heavy precipitation events continue, soil erosion off of mountains and hillsides increases, and this increases the flow of sediment through streams and rivers. This sediment flow clogs up the gravelly areas in the shallows of the streams where trout like to lay their eggs. For more on how trout are affected by global climate change, I met up with Austin Dando.
Trout are cool fish because they're very sensitive and they're very particular about the environments in which they live. So trout require very cold water. When the water gets close up to 70 degrees, which often happens now more we're having these dry summers, and the flows get really low, and basically it allows the water to warm up. And long hours of sun on the water and basically very exposed areas of depth of water. Now the fish don't nearly have as much cover and protection as they used to have from prey, even from birds. So when the water gets up to be, increasing water temperatures, it causes a lot more stress on the fish, reducing their life, often killing fish. For trout, they spawn in November, December, when it's cool. However, what we will find, is what I kind of touched on previously, in the summer months, especially in August or so, when you get kind of these lulls in rain often, and the water gets really low and it gets really warm. They sit still all day long and they won't move. What happens is it changes their behavior and all of a sudden they start feeding exclusively at night. So the fish will come out and they'll often kind of feed in the shallow riffles for other types of bait fish, swimming sculpins that live in those type of environments. They won't really go out into the main rifts, they'll just stay kind of close to the bank, but they will change their habits and their behaviors depending on temperature.
Welcome back to the show. So Logan, this past weekend we had EMEX, which is our open house here in the College of Earth and Mineral Science. How was it for you to see all those prospective students?
It was a lot of fun getting to meet some of the family and the students that came all across the nation to come to Penn State this weekend. I got to talk to some of them on the ground floor of Walker. I was down there selling merchandise and pizza. We got a few bit of sales within the hour I was there, but the most important fact was that I got to talk to these students that are going to be here starting here in the fall of this time next year.
And plus, it was a beautiful day last Saturday. Will that weather persist this weekend? Vivian Rainey's on the climate wall. Vivian, what does this weekend have in store for us?
This weekend is going to have in store for us very similar conditions to last week. It's going to be sunny, although it's still going to be a little bit cooler than we've seen on average here in State College. Looking at our climate and normals for this time of the year, our average high is 52 degrees and our average low is only 33 degrees, and we're going to be sitting just a little bit closer to that average low, where we're going to be seeing these slightly below average temperatures here in State College for the next few weeks. Looking at our record high at 86 back in 1907, which is going to be in a sharp contrast to our record low at a very chilly 5 degrees back in 1923 here in State College. Looking at our temperature outlook, they're not going to be anywhere near as severe as those record-breaking temperatures. We're seeing lots of below normal temperatures, especially across the Northeast. So we're going to be seeing not quite springtime quite yet, but we're going to be moving into there very soon. That's going to be in sharp contrast to down in the Southwest, where we're going to be seeing above normal temperatures really down into Arizona and Southern California, where we're going to be seeing those most severe above normal temperatures. And that's going to be really, in contrast, something that we would wish to have here in the Northeast. Those below normal temperatures are going to be really focused up near Minneapolis and in Minnesota, with those Dakotas really remaining in those below normal temperatures. It's going to be a little bit cooler than we'd hoped, especially here at home in State College. We're going to be seeing just a little bit below normal once again, below average temperature outlooks. Looking at our precipitation outlook for that same period from April 3rd to April 9th, there's going to be lots of above average precipitation throughout much of the country. We're going to be seeing a little bit below normal precipitation really down into California, from San Francisco down to Southern California and LA. They're going to be seeing the most below normal precipitation outlooks, which is going to be in sharp contrast to what they've been seeing in the past few weeks. Looking at those above normal precipitation totals, they're really going to be centered really throughout most of the East Coast, really all the way to the Mississippi. We're going to be seeing those most above normal precipitation amounts, and that's going to remain true here in the State College. In those above normal amounts, we're going to be seeing a little bit more rain over the next few weeks. Looking at drought across the nation, not much here, but there's going to be still a lot really across most of the United States, especially centered in the Four Corners region, with the most severe droughts are going to be really staying in the panhandle of Oklahoma. This is a drought that has persisted there for a long time, and we're really hoping for a little bit of relief for anybody in that area. There's going to be much less severe drought really into the coast of the South. We're going to be seeing this small amount of drought really up from the Mason-Dixon line all the way down into the most northern parts of Florida, where they're starting to see a little bit of below normal precipitation and into those early stages of drought. Looking a little bit closer to home, we have nothing to worry about right now. We're seeing no drought anywhere near us. The closest drought is starting right down into the beginning of Maryland at the Mason-Dixon line. Looking at snow depth across the nation, we're really seeing a lot up in the northern tier of the United States, but the most we're going to be seeing as it moves up is there's going to be a little bit down in the Rockies. They're only at 70% of their snowpack totals, so even though we are seeing snow depth there, it's definitely not near as much as anybody out west is hoping for. We're going to be seeing even a little bit of abnormal snow depth, which is going to be in the lower parts of Appalachia. We're going to be seeing a little bit of that persistent snowpack from the nor'easters that have been passing through that area. But that's going to be absolutely nothing in contrast to the continued snowpack up into New England and into the maritime states of Canada, where they're going to be seeing lots of snowpack persisting. Looking at our weekend forecast, unfortunately, it's not going to be quite as warm as anybody would hope, although it is going to be a very pleasant weekend after the chance of showers passes on Saturday. Temperature around 49 degrees, and that's going to be the same temperature around 49 degrees for Sunday with those partly sunny skies. It's going to be a very nice day to get out there and really leave all of our apartments and dorms and really soak in that sunshine.
Well, thanks, Vivian. I can't wait to get out and enjoy the weather for Sunday. And maybe I'll be able to put my coat up, because I know I really want to be able to put my winter coat up after it's been several months that I've been able to do so.
That is true. I also want to put mine up. So hopefully that we'll start seeing spring conditions continue here in the State College. That's all we have time for you this week. I'm Mike Susko.
And I'm Logan Westrope. Be sure to catch us next week up in the air.